This book might not have come to be without the help of Quentin Schultz. Thank you for helping someone you have never met. May we someday fish the rogue. Special thanks to Perry Atkinson, a special person who is living proof that the best man doesn't always get the job. Additional thanks go to Craig Black, Bill Moore, D. Virginia Struck, Sue Schneider, Lee Lanfier, Hope Russell, Bill Haas, Bob Hunter, the late Garrett Miller, Joe Robinson, B.J. Oropeza, Tom Coughlin, Betty Coughlin, Ricky Coughlin, Laura Coughlin, and Tom Jr., the arch-enemy of flabby thinking. Thank you to the excellent staff at InterVarsity Press, the Phelps family of Evangel Family Bookstores, the Mail Tribune, and the reference staff at the Jackson County Library. Finally, and most important, a very hearty thank you to Sandy and our tribe, who encouraged their husband, father, to work in a square, cold van on the driveway, when all the while they wanted him to come inside and wrestle on the floor by the fire. Chapter 1. Conspiracy theories are everyone's business. I deeply regret not taking the information that I had to the police. I put myself first in spite of a sea of grief and sorrow experienced by bombing victims. I am so completely ashamed that I did not come forward with my knowledge right away. The bombing victims' stories are so horrifying, so heartbreaking, so full of human suffering that I cannot bear them. I feel as though my mind would break. Michael Fortier, after receiving his sentence of 12 years in prison for his role in the Oklahoma City bombing. I have nightmares of my daughter calling out for me from the rubble of the building. The hardest thing a mother will ever have to do is bury her child. Marcia Kite, mother of Frankie Merrill, bombing victim. While taking a much-needed vacation, I woke up the morning of April 20th, 1995, to headlines of a hit-and-run war. Photos showed victims and rescuers covered in a macabre paste composed of blood and coarse concrete dust. The story documented with cool indifference how an explosion carved a deep scar into a stout rectangular-shaped building, reminiscent of the cratered buildings of World War II. Testimonies of Oklahoma City residents punctuated the story with hysteria and fear that the perpetrator was still at large. My family and I were so busy playing in the wilds of the Pacific Northwest that we hadn't heard as much as an incomplete sentence about the bombing attack. With my elbows propped on a honey pine breakfast table, I read the suspicions rippling through Associated Press and other wire stories as to the identity of the bomber or bombers. The main suspects were misidentified as Middle Eastern terrorists. While I waded through accounts that wrestled with specific questions, what kind of bomb was it? How many might still be buried inside the concrete and rebar rubble? Who did it and for what motive? I felt as if I were suffocating in heavy wool blankets. Breaking television news stories fulfilled my suspicions, and my prediction made more than a year previously on my daily radio talk show. I had predicted on the Paul Thomas Show that some form of violence would be executed against the U.S. government because I took seriously the anger expressed by callers against the federal government for its alleged and deliberate murder of religious extremists at Waco and Ruby Ridge. My callers believe that these planned executions were part of a New World Order conspiracy. But not all of my callers agreed as to who was or wasn't part of the conspiracy. Many, such as John, believe that there was a concerted effort on the part of the elitist media to propagate liberal political and social agendas calculated to pull America from its godly foundation. He was thankful that talk show hosts such as Rush Limbaugh were there to balance the score every weekday. Scott, however, believed that Limbaugh was part of the conspiracy, as was nearly every U.S. president, especially if a member of the Masonic Lodge. Scott believed that the U.S. government carried out the Oklahoma City bombing in an attempt to restrict the Second Amendment right to bear arms. Callers such as Mark argued emphatically that the national debt was being deliberately increased to turn control of the country over to evil international bankers who would destroy America's sovereignty and erect the New World Order. He also believed that most churches and influential